Hello there everybody, it is me XfreezerBunny and welcome back to another video and welcome to a very epic Sims 4 speed build, or should I say the start of a very epic Sims 4 speed build, because this is the first part in a two-part build inspired by one of the greatest book and film franchise of all time in my opinion, Lord of the Rings. So I've recently rewatched all of the Lord of the Rings films as well as all of the Hobbit films. It was quite an experience because this was my first time rewatching Lord of the Rings in like over 20 years. I did watch the movies when they originally came out. I was around 7 years old at the time, and yeah, I just haven't rewatched them again for some reason, and it was quite an experience re-experiencing all of it for the first time. And I did re-watch the extended cuts of all of the movies, which was insane. It took me a good probably 2 weeks to finish all of the films, and yeah, it was quite an experience, and I'm gonna be talking more about that. I did re-watch them back in December, so yeah, I know it's been 6 months from then, but yeah, this build was definitely a long time coming. I did start this back in January, and I have been posting hints on this ever since. I just really haven't had the time to finish it, and I feel like this is why, you know, this is such an epic build, because it literally took me over 6 months from start to finish. Keep in mind, this build is still a work in progress. It's still not fully completed yet, but I would say it's around 90% done at this point. But yeah, this first part is going to be the exterior, and then the next part obviously is going to be the interior. We're also going to be doing the landscaping in this part as well. If you're wondering what we're doing now, we are actually just laying out the groundwork for the interior, because I did decide to do some complicated stuff for the interior of this build. As you can see, I wanted to recreate kind of like the barrel vault shape that we have for the ceilings of these typical Hobbit holes. This build was somewhat inspired by Bag End, which is the iconic home of Bilbo Baggins and Frodo Baggins, which are the main protagonists of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. However, I did put my own spin on things, because I really didn't try to recreate Bag End like exactly how it looks in the movies, but I did try my best to kind of capture that vibe. So maybe we can call this kind of like next door to Bag End or something like that. It does share certain characteristics with Bag End, like there's a tree on a mound right behind this house, but it doesn't quite sit on top of a hill though like Bag End. So, you know, there's quite some differences. And I feel like this house is definitely smaller, because I'm just realizing it now, but Bag End is actually quite a huge house. It has so many rooms, and apparently Bilbo Baggins is actually a rich hobbit. So that's something that I've only just realized now. I mean, to be fair, when the original franchise came out, I didn't really get all of the nuance because I was literally a child when it came out. So I'm getting a chance to properly appreciate everything now. And of course, me being my usual geeky self, I also watched all of the appendices, which is insane. I didn't know those existed, but they were so good. I feel like Lord of the Rings is like the most well-documented film ever in production. I guess it's because they filmed all of the trilogies back to back, so maybe that's a thing. It made sense for them to like properly document every single step of it, but I don't know, you can definitely feel the passion and the craftsmanship through the appendices, which, if you don't know, are basically like, you know, behind the scenes documentaries of the entire process that it took for them to make the film. From, you know, the very beginnings, pre-production, production, post-production, all of that good stuff. It's so comprehensive, it's so good. I absolutely love it. For, you know, geeks such as myself, I don't want to call myself a film geek, but for just, you know, geeks such as myself, you know, people who enjoy these like, I don't know, nerd culture, geek culture, whatever, it was such a good watch, and I'm so glad I discovered it, and I'm so glad it's also available online as well. I have also rewatched The Hobbit, and actually I originally started this whole thing just planning to rewatch The Hobbit because I haven't actually seen the entire Hobbit trilogy like back to back to back. I have seen all of the movies in theaters, but I haven't seen the extended versions, and I also haven't seen them like back to back. I feel like The Hobbit does work better kind of like more as a miniseries because I did watch it like in several chunks. Honestly, I am not trying to be offensive or anything, but I may have fallen asleep in the cinema for the second and third Hobbit films. I don't want to give any spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it, but yeah, literally the third movie I was like, oh, this person? This thing happened to this person? Oh, I'm like, yeah, you guys, it was kind of probably, I don't know, maybe for me personally, it wasn't the best cinema experience because I mean, that's what I do when I watch really, really boring films. I'm not saying The Hobbit was boring. I'm saying it was probably way too long for like, you know, a casual cinema goer's experience, which was literally me at the time. Maybe if I was more of a fan, I would have appreciated all of the extra stuff that they added, or not, because I definitely have heard a lot of not so good reactions from fans regarding all of the stuff that they added, you know, the elf dwarf, you know, comedic, almost comedic love triangle, whatever. I don't know, I'm not even gonna get into that, but it was fine. I mean, the visuals were great. You know, I definitely love the visuals of Lord of the Rings. That's part of the highlight for me when watching the films. I feel like, you know, Alan Lee and John Howe did an incredible job curating the visuals of all of the film, and I feel like they deserve more credit. I will have to say that this build is definitely more inspired by the movies because I haven't actually read the novels myself, and I'm not sure how accurate the movies are to the novels. I'm pretty sure they took some artistic licenses when it comes to depicting certain stuff, but yeah, I just absolutely love Alan Lee and John Howe's art. You know, there's so many Tolkien artists out there, and you guys, they are insane. The amount of talent is just insane, you guys, and yeah, kudos to them for making something so iconic. And to be fair, they are recognized for their work. Like, you know, Return of the King won like how many Oscars? Like 11 if I'm not mistaken, which is the most out of any other film. I think there's only 3 movies that have that many Oscars. It's pretty insane. Of course, growing up, I didn't realize all of this because, you know, I was literally a child when all of this unfolded. I definitely knew that it was a big phenomenon, but growing up, you know, a lot of the big blockbuster franchises were actually high fantasy, which is probably the main reason why I do prefer fantasy over sci-fi. But yeah, other than Lord of the Rings, of course, Harry Potter was a huge franchise as well. And I have to say, as a kid, I feel like I liked Harry Potter more, but maybe that's just because that appealed to me personally as a child. But as a grown-up, I think I'm actually more interested in Lord of the Rings. I'm genuinely interested in reading the Silmarillion because it doesn't even feel like a novel at this point based on what I know. The Silmarillion is basically a backstory of what happened in Middle-earth prior to the events of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And I just love how it goes into their geography, into the different peoples. That's the type of literature that I'm interested in, and it doesn't even feel like a novel. It feels more like, you know, an encyclopedia basically of Middle-earth, which, you know, is something that really piques my interests. And actually, now that I'm talking about that, when I built this build, I had no idea they were adapting like the Rings of Power. which I believe is set in the second age of Middle Earth, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't really kept up with the production of the Rings of Power. I had no idea that was happening up until after I started this build, but I'm pretty excited actually. It looks pretty amazing, and if I'm not mistaken, some of the iconic characters from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit will make an appearance. Elrond, for example, and Galadriel. I'm so excited. I have an idea of what happens in the second age, but I don't know the full story. Like I said, haven't read the Silmarillion. Would love to read it and hopefully get inspired to do more high fantasy builds. Because now that I built this, I definitely love to try my hand at doing like an elven build. I think that would be so cool, because when I was a kid I definitely had this thing called elf envy, because elves are like so glamorous, they're so beautiful, they're basically perfect, you know, they're immortal, they're powerful, and their aesthetic is just so gorgeous. I would definitely love to live in Rivendell. I wish they would make like a proper IRL recreation of it, because they did actually make proper recreations of Hobbiton in New Zealand. So shout out to all the Kiwis out there. Let me know if you've been there. I would love to go there. I would absolutely love to go there. But yeah, I would also love to experience Rivendell. I don't know, maybe if a theme park in the future would recreate it. Also, Lothlorien, probably the most beautiful place ever. But yeah, speaking of elf envy, when I was a kid I definitely wanted to be an elf because of the glamour, because of the beauty, because of the immortality. But now that I'm older, I definitely feel more like a hobbit. I definitely connect more to that kind of lifestyle, because I feel like I'm more of a potato, you know, that's my preferred lifestyle. You know, I like sitting around, gardening, playing video games, reading books, manga mostly, you know, Netflix and chilling basically. Yeah, I feel like I'm a potato. That's why I want to be a hobbit. Also, I'm kind of adventurous as well, so I don't know, maybe that's a hobbit trait. I don't know if hobbits are adventurous now that I think about it. I know that they're not easily corruptible. That's why they make for really good ring bearers. Yeah, shout out to Frodo and Bilbo and Sam, of course. Best boy, Sam. Can I just say how iconic Lord of the Rings was? The casting was insane, and I'm just realizing now that Viggo Mortensen wasn't supposed to be cast as Aragorn, which I could not see it. I've always seen Aragorn as Viggo Mortensen, but apparently they had another actor cast as him, and they replaced the said actor like last minute. And I don't know why, but Viggo Mortensen, I don't know what he did, but he absolutely nailed the role. And yeah, I don't really see any other actor be Aragorn, because Viggo Mortensen is just Aragorn. And now that I've rewatched the movies, actually, I think Aragorn's like my favorite character, which is weird because growing up, I definitely loved Legolas, but he kind of doesn't really do much other than, you know, kind of like, you know, be a puppy next to Aragorn, which is another detail that I didn't really realize watching it growing up. But yeah, there's so many nuances that you only, you know, start to notice as an adult. But yeah, let me know which one is your favorite film in the entire franchise. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, let me know which one's your favorite, because growing up, I think my favorite would have been the second movie, because I love the politics, and in my opinion, it has the best battle sequences because they did use a lot of like practical effects for the two towers, which I feel like was kind of lost in Return of the King, because the two towers, they actually filmed it in like a mine, and it was apparently really difficult. It was, you know, taking its toll on the actors' mental health. The stunt people were like, you know, suffering basically. But it kind of shows in the movie just how much hardship people had to go through just to get those scenes right, because the battle scenes in like Helm's Deep were actually really good. You can feel like how gritty they were, which was something that was missing in, you know, Minas Tirith for me. Also, I feel like the third movie they used like way too much CG, and it starts to show. Even as a kid, I noticed the use of CG. When I was a kid watching the Minas Tirith battle scenes, I was like, okay, that looks like a cartoon. Yeah. But surprisingly, the movie still aged well. But I think now, my favorite would be the first one, probably. I don't know, it's still between the first and second one. Because the first one I do love, like, you know, kind of like the more political side of it. But the second one also has a lot of politics actually with Rohan. And I actually really love all of the parts with Rohan. I think that's one of my highlights of the entire franchise. I wish I saw more of it, because that felt more grounded in reality, I guess. But I don't know, I also like the whole high fantasy stuff. I don't know, we'll see. Let me know what you think. And who is your favorite character, because I definitely am a simp for Aragorn now. But yeah, you guys just saw me basically build this whole entire thing. I think it's pretty straightforward, you know. The biggest thing for me was to make this look like it was actually underground, somewhat underground. So I did try to use grass roofing, and I tried to make it look kind of, you know, like it's part of the hill. That's why there's some actual like terrain manipulation out back, and I tried to connect that with the roof. There's a pond in front because, you know, we have water features now, so why not? I do love the tree out back. It looks so good. It's one of the trees that came with Cottage Living actually, and absolutely love that. And I also love the landscaping as well. There's a little flower garden in front, which I really love. And you also probably saw me do like a round door entrance. I tried my best. I did not use any CC for this build, but I did heavily use the tool mod. Once again, if you want to download this, you do not need the tool mod for everything to work. Just make sure you have move objects on. And before I forget, speaking of downloads, the download for this build should be up next week when part 2 comes up, so keep an eye out for that. But over here out back, there's a little farming area for you to keep your cows and chickens. I do think these fences that came with debug should be able to hold the chickens from escaping. I did test this a couple of months ago, so yeah, that should be a thing unless they changed it. But yeah, I just really love the little details, and I'm planning to put in some more Easter eggs in here eventually when I get back into building this. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed my little ramble on Lord of the Rings. I definitely enjoyed geeking out with you guys. I just have so much to say because, like I said, I consumed so much Lord of the Rings media over the past couple of months. But yeah, let me know what you think. I definitely enjoyed this build, definitely one of my more ambitious ones, and hands down one of my favorite ones as well. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up my commentary right here. Once again, special thank you to my patrons for your amazing support. Everyone else watching, thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed this video. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.